put that in the exact same argument of why inflation rates are high. You're saving too much, you're not spending enough, you're not working hard enough. You have to feel pain before those interest rates come back down.
Correct.
The consumer has to. But the asset class doesn't have to feel any pain before they start making better decisions.
You and I and Sohail were having a conversation in the office yesterday, I guess, about like the difficulties to the economy that were going to come from the end of use of commercial real estate, which is the larger effect of the trend to remote work. So you want to go into any of that, or you kind of reiterate what your thoughts were?
Yeah, I just, if you take a look at, you could see it on both sides. Like as an employee, I don't care that you own this piece of property. I can do my job just as well from home as I could do from whatever, asset that you purchased and you think that I need. Yeah. As long as I have a phone, a computer, something to write on, maybe I can do my job from anywhere. Right. And that's understandable from an employee's point of view, but very short-sighted as an employee's point of view as well, because we do have this asset as a company, and your job is to help the company produce and survive. Right. And unfortunately, in a company, that may be one of their largest assets, especially if they own it. And if you don't come in and use it and they lose the value of that asset, you're going to be losing the value of your job too. So, while I understand comfort, I also understand trying to keep the organism alive. So I'm kind of torn. I feel like we as individuals need to step up and work a little harder to try to build our company back up and survive this, because really it has potential to be very damaging to the financial services industry, not just the financial services, the whole framework of the country.
They built a house of cards by doing 99-year leases, getting parking lots, putting their money into it. And now that they can't keep their downtowns up for all the folks, now they're freaking out and they want us to bail them out again. Is that basically?
Well, it's not that they want us to bail them out. I mean, they are us, right? They are the ones that write the check. They, for better or worse, if you don't work for them, you're going to work for someone else that has the exact same problem. So ultimately, based on the way that we're set up as a country and as it's a problem. Well, and it's a problem that individually we should probably consider more than just, but I don't want to.
But are we for free markets or aren't we, though? That's the question, right? If we're for free markets, it's not as if money is going away and people that invest money are going away.
Right.
We had this argument for
what has to change, what's going to have to change is the way that we can change the type of asset that it is, right? Okay. We all know we need more places for people to live.
Absolutely.
So changing it from a commercial property to a residential property, that's a permitting thing. That is what? Nothing more than bureaucracy. And we know that bureaucracy tends to be very slow. And bureaucracy will probably take longer to address this issue than we have time to fix it fiscally. That's my point.
So let's put that in the exact same argument of why inflation rates are high. You're saving too much, you're not spending enough, you're not working hard enough. You have to feel pain before those interest rates come back down.
Correct.
The consumer has to.
Right.
But the asset class doesn't have to feel any pain before they start making better decisions.
So the asset class can't, right? It can't, because it's constrained by what it is. You can't pick it up and move it, right? So you can't move it from one location to another. You can't make it the problem of a different state. Right. So if you take a look at New York, New Jersey, and parts of California that are crying about the SALT taxes and the deductions from that, that was a big part of the reason you live in New York City. It's not because you want to live in that 600 square foot hovel that you're paying $5,000 a month for. That's just a place you hang your head. That's because you want all the other stuff. Right. But a lot of that other stuff is going out the window because of online and stuff. And then if you want to convert that big office unit to residential, you can't, because those same places were also very difficult to get assets built. And so now they don't want it to be easy to change. And so it's just a fact of life. For a lot of parts of the country, it's probably not a big deal.
But there's always things you can do. And this is the real rub of it, because I'm definitely sympathetic to the issues of commercial real estate. And there's a value in being in the office, because who wants to be in the office? People under 30 who need to learn and grow and be mentored, and older folks too, who need to learn how to mentor and grow. There is a value in being together.
There's a sociological concept called the third place. You heard of this?
Yeah, it was Starbucks, right?
No, basically, it's older than the concept of Starbucks, but it's the idea that there's the first place is the home, second place is work, the third place is Dunkin' Donuts, or a barber.
Right, sorry, we were saying Dunkin' for our listeners in the Northeast.
Yes, or barber shops, or
Right.
you know, the park or something like that. And so you can get what you're talking about from third places, or some sociologists are trying to institute the word fourth place for like co-working spaces.
Right.
But really it's a form of a third place. You can get that community and mentorship through, it doesn't have to be through a
That's like the
centralized
argument
ownership.
for homeschooling, though, too. When everybody goes, why are you socializing? Yes, you can. It doesn't mean you are. Just because you can. Some people need to be there. They need to be in an office with their ass beaten every day to do work.
But third place is not
reality.
Third place is not. It's not just something that somebody came up with as an answer to offices. It's a sociological phenomenon that's being described. So people are going to go to third places as a natural function of being human.
But before we get all of that, let's get back to the asset class. Because here's the problem. I need you in the office. You have to do it.
Okay.
Why are they saying it? Are they saying it because their prices are going down? No, that would be admitting weakness. Are they saying it because they're just missing people? Because what happens is I have to go into the office, and what do I do in the office? I'm on a freaking Zoom call with 10 different offices.
Right.
Why am I going in and sitting in a cubicle to sign into a Zoom? They used to have all that stuff like Indeed and Google. They had all these, here's your food. But those are necessities. They did that because you can't get anywhere in Austin. If you went to lunch, you'd lose 2 hours in the middle of the day.
Yep.
So instead of saying we're going to make this useful, we're going to spend our times actually making it useful for you to be in the office. We're going to have better management while you're there. Not just what did you do on your TPS reports, but rather we're actually going to make it worthwhile. We're going to get that value of being in space, your third place or your second or whatever. We're going to change the way we manage to be better managers. Instead, they're just like, we're going to fire you or you come back to the office, and we're going to have the same terrible office culture because 30 years ago, we stripped every manager out. We leaned everybody. We refused to train anybody. I don't have a lot of sympathy for companies that don't fix that. I actually don't mind the office. I have friends who are ecstatic to be back in 3 or 4 days a week. But the whole point is they're building decent cultures. Saying you have to come back for the value of the company is how about you make it worth their while?
So going back to that thought process, I like the idea that we're changing it from why to how, right?
Yeah.
We know that we need them back. Why? Who knows? Here's my thought process is that just like any office asset, you have to have a certain amount of people using it in order to be able to write it off, right? So if you have a jet plane, like a corporate jet, and it's just one guy using it, is that really a corporate asset, right? So it could be the same thing, and then you got different classes of real estate. So it could be any number of things. The reason that they do that, like not be able to write it off, maybe a certain amount of people need to be occupants of the property.
There are
Who
huge
knows?
tax
So
things.
we know, we don't know why, right? But we know how do we get it back in? Instead of why, it's like air conditioning. Like life was a lot worse when it's like, why is it so hot? Well, how about we change it and figure out how to make this thing cooler, right? So same thing. How do we change the asset itself to be more conducive to using it, I guess. But that would probably be quicker than, trying to fix a lot of that other stuff. It's just, well, I don't want to use that basic complicated, but it's the
same conversation you have when you have to try to solve every major systemic problem is you got to approach it from a systemic level. Like you can't change user behavior just because you really jump up and down and yell at them.
And if you lie,
but you have to change where the incentives
because we're a family here and you've got to come in. Well, how about you just say, we need people in the office because there are
for
tax
a family. I need $20, Dad.
Okay, so if you're looking again, I like to say that you start out with the human, then you go to the organization, right? So as an organization, our human body, it's like something fails, the rest of it fails, right? And so the same thing with the corporation. We know that 80% of the population, hopefully, is mission driven, doesn't really want to do anything over and above, but they're on board, and then you've got 5% that can influence 15%. So you try to manage out that 5% somehow. So the 15% stay with the 80%, right?
Right.
But you still have that 5%. And that 5% is what's causing this drama. We have, whether it's regulation or anything else, there's some percentage of management that needs to pass on their skills to someone else that's eventually going to become management, right? So if you can, and I kind of believe that a lot of that needs to be passed on person to person.
I 100% agree with you. So then why do they not do that?
I don't know. So I think we're going to have to shave out classes of people that have to show up at the office. You know what? You come into the office, you participate in the defined contribution plan. I think
a lot of it's executives travel a bunch. They're doing different things. And they do go into the office and they don't see the hustle and the bustle and the flow that they remembered when they hired a lot more people, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's the question with AI. You need less and less people. You need to be more productive. You're doing different things.
Sure.
You're never going to get 50 people in a room working on something with the flow. That's just not going to be. Companies aren't going to be built like that anymore. So is it these guys are dinosaurs who need to step aside because they haven't figured out it's not going to be like Kansas anymore? Or do they need to begin making their change? That's why it's because the big issue is that they just go back to the office and make no changes. The asset class that I keep calling the asset class, but the fact that assets are a major part of our economy, that stuff's baked in and has been, and it was worthless for a long time. We have the
but
rules.
Everything changed, right? Everything changed.
It does, and we're going to have to deal with some of that. But the idea that somehow they haven't screwed up is the issue. Until you acknowledge your fault, you can't be repentant. And so I have zero sympathy for somebody who's like, we have to do this because the company, even if tax incentives allowed you to charge less, and that's why you've been successful. I mean, that actually is a big, hey, we got $10 million from the government by having people in this office here in Plano. And that's way we've been able to sell our products for slightly less. And that's why we captured 40% of the market. So that's a real argument.
Mm-hmm.
But if your argument now is like, and I don't know what to do now, if you're not coming in, I'm like, well,
figure it out.
You played a game. It's like, electric vehicles, we're going to subsidize $20,000 of them. Ooh, electric vehicles are great. We don't have enough graphite for them. No one thinks through that.
Mm-hmm.
So I think they have to take a hard look at themselves, and they're not going to do that till they feel pain. And the only pain you feel when you own something
is when that thing goes down in value.
Maybe 5-10% of those buildings needed to, like they're doing in San Francisco, where they're selling back at
they're just letting go of the lease.
Yeah, they're throwing the keys back.
How do you
But no one wants that. That's the
that?
whole thing. Is like the people that actually own the majority of that real estate aren't necessarily the ones that are using the real estate, right? These are like legacy families that have amazing amounts of money, and they do what's known as extend and pretend, right?
Yeah,
That's the real estate game, right? That's like, I'll refinance it at this high level. I've got the cash flow to do it until things get better.
So it's about, if
the
it's
banks don't want to own it. They don't want to go there and lock
course.
the doors, unlock the doors, and do the maintenance required to keep it from going into disrepair. Yeah. So,
so the banks are the ones ultimately going to feel the pain?
Yes.
So
and most of them are the regional banks, right? Most of those regional banks, you've got the CB Richard Ellis.
Primarily regional.
Yeah, because you've got the JP Morgans. They're going to do the cream of the crop, Class A type stuff. But real estate is a local knowledge kind of a deal, right? And so you see a lot of these banks that are doing it are the local banks, the regional banks that actually know Dallas or know Fort Worth or know Austin or know, they know that industry. But that means also that then you have, a certain amount of geographical location risk, right?
Hey, thanks for watching The Merge. We've got a ton more stuff for you to watch on YouTube, on Instagram, on TikTok, everywhere. Check us out.